art piece about engagement with public space that will open as an installation in B54 for the weekend of December 10th and 11th, 2022. Space is a major component of my work. My 2021 album, Public Transportation Music, is about urban environments and social service, approaching the subject on a macro level. Conversely, Being in the Way attempts to understand public space on an interpersonal level, and understanding what it means to be in a room with others and how to assert one's own boundaries within that context. For the purposes of my EP491 project, under the direction of Dr. Akito Van Troyer, Being in the Way also serves as an exposition of my sound design and development practice. Being in the Way functions technically by taking an array of environmental sensors and interpolating their data in a way as to affect a probabilistic composition. Written in the Development Environment Supercollider, the project differentiates itself from other data sonification approaches by using a combination of composed and stochastic elements. CO2, temperature, and humidity sensors feed arrays of weighted probabilities that transition between precomposed sections, phrases, and pieces. What you're seeing here is a custom algorithm that takes those inputs, scales them to a single value between 0 and 3, and interpolates that number into an array of probabilities. Ultrasonic distance sensors and a theremin antenna both quantify the proximity of humans in relation to the body, and are used to both spatialize the audio using a custom-built script, as well as triggering changes in different compositional elements. The intent of all of this is to quantify, explore, and reflect the presence of viewers within the installation space. For instance, if the space is empty, the music becomes forlorn and lonely. If the space is crowded, the music becomes erratic and anxious. If the space is comprised of a smaller group of about 3 to 5 people, the piece becomes harmonious and reflective. All of this is an attempt to bridge the dialectic between feelings of loneliness and feelings of agoraphobia. Thus far in the project, there is quite a lot that has been finished, and yet still quite a lot that needs to happen. I have sketches written for all 3 pieces. In fact, those are what you've been listening to this entire presentation. In addition to exploring probabilistic composition, I have developed a number of synthesis models to recreate the instruments I want to use. Thus far, I have written synthesis methods for an acoustic guitar and a piano, with plans to synthesize a cello in the near future. All of these models use an additive method, and I have written a script in C++ that works in conjunction with Michael Klingbeil's Spear project to allow sinusoidal editing and resynthesis of samples, converting that data into arrays that can be passed into Supercollider. I am fascinated by the power of additive synthesis to work with spectral data directly. In addition to a greater range of fidelity than working with samples, additive synthesis gives me an incredible amount of control and modulation possibilities. I have been exploring the use of array operations, multiplying durations and amplitudes by arrays of constrained randomness, to allow greater depth of variation and modulation to the sound in a way that sampling simply cannot achieve. In addition to the additive models, the synth driving the ultrasonic chords is a 2-operator FM model, whose frequencies are being driven by a semi-stochastic process, and whose amplitudes are being driven by the distance of the viewer to the sculpture. Building a physical sculpture has by far been the most challenging aspect of this project. Through a number of small hand injuries, filling my workspace with sawdust, wood shavings, and wire scraps, the body is approaching a finished state. The skeletal structure is completed, although extra care needs to be taken in fastening structural members to one another securely. In addition to its decorative use, the wire covering the body also serves the functional purpose of acting as a theremin antenna. This measures the radial proximity of human presence to the sculpture, with the intent of enforcing a level of personal space. The main considerations still to be made with this sculpture are in finishing and polish. The rest of the wood needs to be sanded down, the wiring needs to be finished, and overall I want the finished project to look well put together despite my lack of carpentry skills. All of my sensors are functioning, and most of their functionality is written up in code, but I desperately need time in the space to test them. Inconsistent access to B54 has been my largest hindrance thus far, as I need to continue calibration of my sensors and work with the 10.2 surround system. Otherwise, however, all sensors are functioning beautifully, and Dante Virtual Sound Card works like a charm, giving me 12 channels of audio to throw around the room. I have written a spatialization engine that throws the sound into space as a centroid calculated from values being brought in by the ultrasonic distance sensors. This is demonstrated in the Desmos graph that I am showing now. Each of the 6 ultrasonic distance sensors returns a value in centimeters. Every 2 sensors opposite each other can be thought of as one complete line, and from those 2 distance values a center point can be calculated. Each of those center points forms one point of a triangle, and from there the centroid can be calculated using basic trigonometry. I took this approach as the traditional equation for finding the centroid of a polygon yielded lackluster results. I wrote this algorithm to effectively throw the sound to the most open space in the room, shifting the sonic mass away from other human presence with the intent of exploring personal space and the concept of sonic imperialism as coined by R. Murray Schafer. This project has been a massive undertaking, and I have learned so much about soldering, programming, and building physical objects. As such, this project is far from finished, but I do believe that because of that, it will become the centerpiece of my technical and artistic portfolio. Additionally, I do feel that I am well on track for my exhibition in early December and pitching the piece to gallery spaces in the future. I would hope that you will all attend.